Welcome to Old Stuff Show. Today we're taking a walking tour in my community, looking at homes and structures that have been repurposed from their original reason of being. And we're looking at the old courthouse in my community that has been repurposed to become the county council chambers and offices. Most communities in North America have experienced the same thing, and it's fun to see that these structures have been able to be preserved, and we can appreciate their design and their purpose in history. So this is the first one we're looking at, and we'll be going to a variety of locations, so let's get started. So this is behind this courthouse that was built in the early 1830s, and behind it was the jail, and around that was this wall that has been since removed. And so it simply is a reminder of the times when outdoor hangings took place. In this location there were some 22 hangings, one of which was a female who had cut off her husband's hand with an axe. And so this location is kind of interesting because it's on the forks of a river, River Thames, and lots of history in this area. And right behind the old courthouse is number 1 Dundas, which is an early home that sat here. It's the first home on a long street in this city. It now has been repurposed to house the museum of the Royal Canadian Regiment. Now we're a few blocks away, and we're looking at the earliest business district in my community. These buildings were built in the early 1830s and have been repurposed today to serve a lot of different uses. The first building was the original Bank of Upper Canada, and this whole row of buildings, actually, it was called Bankers Row. There were other banks in there as well. And so very nice Georgian architecture. Today, this first building is a law office. The other buildings have been turned into, the middle building there, a private school, an academy. And then in the far building, originally there was the Labatt Brewery head office before it moved to Toronto. And so served some very significant functions over the years. So we'll just move up the street a little bit. So this is the end building, and this is where the Labatt head office was. There's a new addition that was put on the back. It's released now, so it'll be serving another purpose. And right beside it, as we head down, there's one of the earliest homes built in London, the original home of the Harris family. The Harrises had 8 daughters. And London was a military community, so it was frequented often by soldiers who were courting the girls of the Harris family, the 7 daughters. And it's a very nice example of Regency architecture, built in between 1831 and 1834, and repurposed today to house a museum, very lovely museum. Now sometimes in our cities we see the tall cranes, and that could be bad news for some of the old buildings. In this location there was a row of old townhouses, homes that were torn down. They were built in the early 1900s, and the developer, though, is going to incorporate the facade, all the original bricks and the appearance of the original buildings into the facade of the 40-story building here. So that occasionally happens, where some things have been preserved in a different way, and it's better than nothing, I guess. And we have another example of that coming up in the next visit. So here's another building that fits into using the old facade, but in this case it was all redone with new materials, and this is incorporated into the corner of the large arena here in the city. That corner, that shape of building, was used as the old city hotel. Now here's a building that was built to be a bank, and it was a bank until the 1960s. Since that time it's been repurposed to serve as a bar and a nightclub, and at the moment is for lease, so you can have it and turn it into whatever you like. This building is interesting. It originally housed the headquarters of the Farmers Advocate. Today it's been repurposed to be a restaurant, and a very high-end, nice restaurant in this city. This is another old bank building, also a Bank of Montreal, that's been closed. Today it's been turned into a restaurant. And across the street, where there's a beautiful old Anglican church, at this corner there was a very ornate large building, the customs house. Sometimes buildings win, sometimes they lose. In this case they lost. They're repurposed to be a lawn. In my city this was a very old department store. It was the last of the old-fashioned kinds of department stores, sold and repurposed to become campus for a local college. Looking at a very impressive old home, originally owned by the co-owner of a large department store in the 1920s in London, repurposed today to house the Boca Shriners Temple, and very impressive structure. This is one of my favorite old homes repurposed in my community. It was the home originally of a cigar manufacturer in London. The city had over 22 cigar factories in the 1920s, second in Canada outside of Montreal. I love the classical design of the pillars, and just a beautiful home. Today an office building. And we have similar across the street, beautiful old home, again today serving as an office building. Now we're standing in front of a former church, a Baptist church, and this has been repurposed into a digital office, Infotech. And I've seen many churches over the years repurposed into homes, and this one is an office building. This structure, this home, former home, also is a very impressive piece of architecture. Originally a home of a wealthy Londoner. Today is used, called my sister's place, used for women's assistance and programs, and preserved as was. This is an old CPR railway depot. When the CPR used passenger service on this line, they used this particular station in my city. Today it has been a restaurant, a cake restaurant. That restaurant has since moved, and it's now for sale and will be repurposed again. This is the last building on the tour. This is a former railway roundhouse, and a fair amount of money has been spent to repurposing it into digital technology offices. This roundhouse turned around many steam engines over its life, and now of course it has a whole new life. So that ends the tour, and thank you very much for watching today. I appreciate your interest, and be sure to see my other videos on Old Stuff Show, youtube.com. We'll Hope to see you again soon, and thanks again. Bye for now.